3 years of my life, flushed down the toilet, and my bank account screaming for mercy. Let me paint you the scene. I met Kenny on a train ride that was supposed to be mundane. Amtrak, en route to Chicago, when, plot twist, we hit something on the tracks. Not a full-on derailment, just enough chaos to strand us in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. 8 hours in a town with one diner, one bar, and a convenience store. 8 long hours. While the desperate masses mobbed the diner, I ended up at the bar, nursing a sad sandwich and pretending my sister would care I'd be late. Kenny was 2 stools down, looking like he fell out of a Gap ad, messy blonde hair, tall, and hands suspiciously perfect. He cracked a joke about small-town America. I laughed, and suddenly we were talking. Turns out we were heading in the same vague direction. He was building something meaningful, because corporate life is evil, and I was stuck in logistics, which isn't sexy, but pays the bills. A few beers, a couple of jokes, numbers exchanged. Classic. He didn't get the first job he interviewed for, but there was always another, perfect opportunity, around the corner. 6 months in, his lease was up, and naturally, moving in with me made sense. My place was bigger, closer to downtown, and I was already funding our evenings anyway. The first month, rent came through. Second month, late. Third month, some convoluted freelance check drama. No big deal, I'm a grown-up, I can manage. Meanwhile, he was home all day, supposedly networking, so hey, apartment's clean, dinner's sometimes ready. Temporary hiccup, right? Then the lies leveled up. Freelance project delays, clients not paying, extended timelines, always just beyond his control, always some magical solution on the horizon. My bank account? Shrinking. I picked up extra shifts, moonlighted on weekends. He'd rub my back, shower me with praise, promise to make it up once his career skyrocketed. Friends started raising eyebrows. One asked how long I planned to bankroll Kenny's lifestyle, and suddenly, the fog lifted. Grocery bills doubled, fridge half empty, money for games and drinks but never for rent. Marriage casually mentioned. Kenny acted like I suggested a suicide pact. Then came the brief, infuriating, good phase. He went out more, networking events, old contacts. I wanted to believe. Dinner with a friend, they dropped the bomb, Kenny's a fiancé. Blonde. Diamond ring. Beach trips while he visited his parents. Hotel stays, restaurant bills, jewelry charges, all on my card. My apartment became a crime scene. He walked in like a normal human, grabbed a beer I paid for, acted casual. I confronted him, and he actually said, "You really thought I'd give you a ring? You're the kind of girl men settle for when they fail." I hit him. Hard. Beer everywhere. Slap him for good measure. Told him to vanish. He argued, I shoved his crap into his backpack, threatened to call his new fiancée, and he finally left. Slammed the door. Locks changed, trash bags out, blocked everywhere. But the aftermath was worse. Over $2,700 in random charges, subscriptions I never approved, restaurant tabs that could feed a small country, and that ring, my money, her hand, not even mine. The bank? Couldn't touch most of it. He had authorized access. Moral of the story, some people are charming disasters, and some rings come with a side of financial apocalypse. 3 months later, and I still can't believe how spectacularly I'd failed at adulting. The night after tossing Kenny's manipulative ass onto the curb, sleep was a myth. I kept peeking at the door like a paranoid raccoon, even though it was deadbolt. Around 3 a.m., my phone erupted with texts, angry, manipulative, pathetic, like a weird combo of soap opera villain and sad puppy. I didn't respond. Next morning, I called in sick, brewed coffee, and did the math on my financial corpse. Spoiler, it wasn't just the $1,700 I'd noticed. Kenny had been siphoning me dry for months, $5, $400 in random withdrawals, subscriptions I didn't ask for, and restaurant bills that made me gag mid-sip. The credit card company was sympathetic but unmoved. Kenny had authorization, so most charges were untouchable. Best they could do, remove him from the account and suggest filing a police report. I considered it for approximately 0.7 seconds before realizing courtroom drama with him would be a horror show I couldn't survive. So I ate the loss and focused on survival mode. First step, locks changed, $170 I couldn't afford but infinitely better than him walking back in like he owned the place. While the locksmith did his thing, I shoveled Kenny's remaining crap into garbage bags, clothes, protein powder, the works. Texted him once about a 24-hour deadline, then let karma, or city sanitation, handle the rest. Of course, he showed up right as I dragged the last bag out, looking like a sad, unshaven raccoon in yesterday's clothes. Tried to lecture me about Daria, about how things weren't what I thought. I kept walking, scraped my elbow on brick walls, and warned him to back off or cops. He watched as I reclaimed my apartment piece by piece. The following week, reality hit like a freight train. My supervisor noticed every little slip, my brain ran on fumes, and exhaustion became a constant companion. Friends invited me out, but I was broke and exhausted. Monday brought the ultimate insult. My position was eliminated in a restructuring, with a severance that wouldn't even cover next month's rent. I signed papers, smiled like a functioning human, then locked myself in a bathroom stall and panicked in private. Called my mom for reassurance. She offered condolences and suggestions like moving back to Florida and living on her pull-out couch. Hard pass. The next 2 weeks were a blur of job applications, 73 sent, 6 promising follow-ups that never materialized, rejection emails piling like garbage. Routine became survival, apply, cheap lunch, walk to save heat, rinse, repeat. Bank account dwindled to triple digits, Netflix cancelled, showers shortened, ramen became gourmet, electricity threatened to shut off. I sold possessions, watch, clothes, even tried my TV, but the offers were insulting. Then, as a cherry on this disaster Sunday, Kenny texted from a new number. Daria dumped him, he was sorry, wanted to talk. I blocked him. The reminder of my monumental misjudgment stung more than his attempts at manipulation ever could. Desperation crept in. Landlord calls, electricity dead for 48 hours, meals reduced to plain rice. Temporary assistance applied for, a humiliating ordeal in a crowded government office, ultimately redirected to food banks. Standing in line with my ID, clutching near-expired bread and canned beans, I felt simultaneously invisible and judged. Then, a sliver of hope, a small warehouse needed temp help. Pay was a joke compared to my previous job, but it was something. Brutal work, physically taxing, freezing or roasting depending on the aisle, but it kept the lights on. Then, one evening, the eviction notice appeared on my door. 30 days to pay in full or get out. Numbness swallowed me. Cue unexpected angel, my neighbor, who I'd barely spoken 10 words to, suggested her cousin Rosalie needed a temporary place. Split rent 3 ways. Quiet, reliable, no questions about my rice diet. Rosalie moved in 2 days later. Peace returned, sort of. With her contribution, I finally clawed back enough of the back rent to stop the eviction process, one small victory in a dumpster fire life. I was still drowning in credit card debt, still stuck in a job that barely scraped above minimum wage, still surviving on ramen and rice like a broke college student during finals week. But hey, I wasn't homeless, so small victories, right? Then, about 3 months after ejecting Kenny from my life like a bad app, I collided with someone on the sidewalk. Without looking up, I mumbled a sorry and kept moving, until I heard my name. Of course, it was Kenny, standing there in a fast food uniform straight out of hell, hideous polo, visor, and probably an existential crisis simmering underneath. I tried to sidestep him, but he blocked my way, babbling about mistakes, needing to talk, newfound humility, and apparently karma had downgraded him to a crappy phone model. I shoved past, barely catching the bus, and slept that night wedged against my bedroom door like I was prepping for a siege. Next morning, a letter appeared in the mailbox. No stamp, just my name scrawled across it in that horrific handwriting I recognized immediately. I didn't open it. Tore it up, scattered the pieces in multiple trash cans, but deep down I knew this wasn't over. And I was right. For 2 weeks, he became my personal urban stalker, at the bus stop, across the street from my apartment, even at the laundromat I'd reluctantly started using. He never approached directly, just waved or tried catching my eye. I pretended to be a ghost. Meanwhile, the warehouse job became its own sadistic nightmare. Shifts extended with zero warning, 8 hours turned into 12, my feet resembled swollen balloons, and my lower back began a constant vendetta against me. Ibuprofen became my lifeline, my silent ritual of survival. Rosalie noticed. One night, she caught me barely standing, offered homemade soup, actual food, not ramen or rice. For the first time in weeks, I had someone to sit and commiserate with. Turns out, she had her own Kenny story. Different name, same disaster. Dinner became our small ritual, whatever we could cobble together from the discount shelf, quiet solidarity against the universe. Late November hit like a truck. I woke up with my throat on fire, head pounding, body screaming rebellion. 103-degree fever, no sick days, $27 in my account, and urgent care a fantasy. So I bundled up, downed ibuprofen like candy, and dragged myself to work. I vaguely remember scanning boxes, hiding in the bathroom, shivering while sweating, and eventually collapsing at the bus stop. A terrified teenage girl found me, made sure I didn't die publicly, and somehow I got home. Rosalie found me collapsed on the living room floor, nearly pale enough to qualify as a ghost. She dragged me into bed, hydrated me, and stayed all night. By morning, fever broken but body feeling run over twice. She'd already called the warehouse, informed them of my pneumonia, and forced them to acknowledge temp worker protections. 5 paid sick days. 5. Enough to survive without turning the bus stop into my personal morgue. When I returned to work, things shifted. Co-workers checked on me, offered help, side-eyed supervisors waiting for me to keel over again. Word had spread, the girl whose roommate raised hell with HR. Meanwhile, Kenny's appearances turned into relentless text harassment. New numbers, same manipulative nonsense, endless energy for ruining my peace. Blocking became my full-time job. December rolled in like a financial guillotine. Holiday workload skyrocketed, back pain intensified, teeth throbbed, a mysterious lump in my gut called mare or maybe misery, who knows. Then, fate struck. A random bus stop conversation with an older woman led me to a medical office needing help with supply reorganization. Desperation is a powerful motivator. Updated resume, library prints, walked in expecting rejection, and instead found a harried manager actually willing to hire me. Part-time, 20 hours a week, organizing medical supply, $3 more per hour than the warehouse. Jackpot, or at least a small consolation prize from the universe. The medical office gig turned out to be the lifeboat I didn't know I desperately needed. Flexible hours, actual skills instead of being a glorified warehouse zombie, I accepted immediately. For weeks, I ran the double grind, mornings at the office, evenings lifting boxes in the warehouse. Brutal, yes, but for the first time in months, bills were paid on time. Rosalie started cooking for both of us once she realized I was a human shell of my former self. By mid-January, I'd saved enough to quit the warehouse. Relief was an actual, tangible thing as I handed in my badge. My co-workers looked genuinely surprised, Guess they expected me to keep tolerating hell indefinitely. One even awkwardly side-hugged me, whispering, "Happy you escaped." The office job wasn't glamorous, but steady. Hours increased, I earned a small desk in the back to track inventory on a prehistoric desktop, and by February I was clawing back some financial dignity. Paying off Kenny's mess was slow, but watching the numbers drop gave me a tiny sense of control. Rosalie and I fell into a quiet rhythm, not friends, not roommates, just mutual survival. She started dating a quiet guy, sometimes he joined our meals, a welcome distraction from the Kenny-shaped void. Things were inching upward. Back still hurt, tooth still throbbed occasionally, but I was moving forward. Then Valentine's Day arrived, the ultimate cosmic joke. Apartment empty, Rosalie and her boyfriend out, heart-shaped hell everywhere, but I had my frozen pizza and Netflix. Halfway through my sad dinner, a knock at the door. Persistent. Desperate. Kenny. Of course. Peephole confirmed my fears, flowers and a small box. I froze. He begged, pleaded, whispered about redemption and making things right. I remained motionless. Eventually, he sighed, dropped the flowers, shuffled off, leaving the pathetic gift behind. I opened the door, assessed the pitiful bouquet and velvet box containing a tiny silver band, not even a proper engagement ring, probably cubic zirconia. Card said something about redemption. I stared, felt nothing, and discarded everything. Cold pizza resumed. Next morning, another text from an unknown number. Kenny again. I replied, "Move on." Blocked him. Time passed. Work at the medical office expanded, hours increased, responsibilities grew, debt slowly diminished, apartment repainted, credit score creeping upward. Mom called, offered dental help, tempting but fraught with old baggage. Kenny. Dormant. Daria. Moved on. Life was rebuilding itself, slowly, painfully, steadily. Then, out of nowhere, last week, Kenny appeared in my doorway holding a small gift bag. Clean, healthy, claiming he wasn't staying, just returning what was mine, the ring, $1,500. He promised to continue repayments until fully made whole. A simple wave, and he left. I sold the ring for just under $1,000, into savings. The saga was officially over. Life stabilized, medical office raise, new roommate who paid rent and left my food alone, occasional back pain as a souvenir of warehouse hell, credit score slowly healing. Kenny might stick to his promises, he might not. Doesn't matter. I've learned never to base plans on someone else's empty words. This chapter is closed. I'm still cautious, still rebuilding, but finally, fully, it's my life again.